Good afternoon, my name is Liam O'Shaughnessy and this is my presentation for EDN 441 Assignment 3. As you can see, I'm a superstar teacher in waiting. So, what kind of teacher do I want to be? I think in order to accurately describe what kind of teacher I want to be, I need to detail what I think the role of teaching is. So, my role as a teacher is to increase the knowledge, skills, self and social awareness, thinking and reasoning capacities of the students in my class. Pretty straightforward, right? So to start this assignment, I asked these guys. Well, the real ones, anyway. So, like most of the people who end up doing teaching, I come from a family of teachers. Teacher, that's my dad. That's my mum, she's an EA. Notice how my dad looks like Walter White. Ignore that. But also, I think I've got a pretty unique background with my military career. But a few of the guys I served with have actually ended up being teachers as well. This guy behind Want here is actually a HASS teacher, level 3 now. So I started up by asking him about this assignment. This guy is now a drama teacher. And this guy teaches homeroom in year 7. Which I still don't really understand. And that's me in the classroom. So, all of those guys, when I asked them what is a good teacher, or what does a good teacher do, they said one thing: respect. So, the type of teacher I want to be respects his students, is respected by his students, respects the content, and respects the profession of teaching. I'll be the type of teacher that builds a desire and a drive to achieve. And through a love of learning, students will get what they want and need from schooling. So on to what kind of HASS teacher do I want to be? Participatory and effective learning. So, there is no teaching without learning. So I have to find ways to engage students in the joy, excitement and curiosity of learning. As teaching and learning involves emotion as much as it involves pure reasoning. Learning also requires a moral and ethical foundation as well, because knowledge is not independent of the knower. And as such, I must include student experiences and voices in the creation of the curriculum, situating the learning. Teaching HASS in a participatory way allows students to develop alternative perspectives about themselves and their social worlds. I will orientate the subject matter to student culture, their interests, needs, speech and perceptions. And my students' input will jointly create the learning process. For a curriculum to be democratic, all subjects and learning areas must be examined critically. And the learning connected to student individuality, and then linked to historical and social issues, encouraging students to examine how their experiences relate to academic knowledge, power, inequality, and to approach received wisdom, even from myself, and challenge the status quo questions. Effective co-development of the curriculum requires myself and the students to analyse our views of what is good or right, possible or impossible, accurate or inaccurate, as problematic, socially constructed, and subject to outside influences. Dialogic and desocializing. Mutual discussion is at the heart of democratic teaching, and as such, in my classroom there will be a dialogue between myself and my students that is initiated by me, but is democratically open to student input. Having a classroom that thrives on dialogue enables the students to be co-developers in the learning process. Knowledge is socially constructed, therefore I need to think carefully about what I teach, how I teach it, and from whose perspective it is taught from. It is also important to have a balance between my authority as a teacher and ensuring that students also have a say, making the process both democratic and critical. There will be a balance between my role as a leader, actively listening to my students, while guiding the students in the co-creation of the curriculum, sharing decision-making, and using my authority in a cooperative manner. As I have stated, one of my goals as a teacher not just as a teacher of HASS, is to ensure that my students are critical thinkers. My classroom will be a place where students are comfortable to question and receive knowledge, society, and challenge the status quo. In empowering education, Shaw details areas where desocialisation is required. Traditional schooling methods that stifle critical thinking, and desocialisation from mass culture that promotes regressive values. I believe that by being open and honest with my students and involving them in the creation of the learning process and using appropriate pedagogical practices, I can avoid the pitfalls of traditional schooling in smothering student critical consciousness. However, my students will be exposed to the influences of mass media on almost a 24-hour basis. It is therefore vital that my students are able to apply critical literacy skills. As so often is said, knowledge is power, and therefore my students need to be aware that all media carries with it inherent biases. Problem posing, multicultural, and situated. In my teaching, I will be implementing a problem posing approach. This means I consider all content, regardless of subject, as products to be questioned rather than a universal knowledge to be accepted mindlessly. This means including multicultural themes and achievements of non-dominant, non-elite groups. Situating my teaching in the language and experience of my students so that their diverse cultures are built into the curriculum. My role and aim as an effective educator is developing active and critical students that are not passive beings waiting for me to teach them, but rather co-developers of the learning process. This means the learning process in my classroom is created by posing knowledge as a problem for mutual learning rather than me depositing knowledge in the traditional banking method. Students are active participants taking part in the contention of knowledge and shaping society. I think it is important to note that being a problem-posing educator does not mean ignoring the much vaunted 3 R's, reading, writing and arithmetic, or disregarding my own academic knowledge. It means teaching in a critical way, where multiple ways of knowing are recognised, and students seek deeper understanding of the content, asking why things are included, and importantly, what is absent, and also linking the learning to students' lives and community so they can form the connections that are so vital towards learning. Another key feature of the teacher I want to be is that I want my students to be researchers. Because teachers and students are knowledge producers, I need to develop research, inquiry-based teaching and learning strategies. And model scholarships, because to study something is to do research. When students are researchers, they gain new ways of knowing and producing knowledge that challenge the status quo of society. Having my students as researchers also alleviates the risk of the curriculum becoming too teacher-centred. During the investigation research process, students will develop their critical inquiry skills and ethical decision-making ability, which will help the students become better informed and active citizens. Even in my limited experience, I have seen how classes often combine and draw on other academic areas, and not just in the domain of HASS. When teaching history in HASS, though, it means taking a critical view where history is seen as a point of view, often written or conveyed by a dominant power. Drawing from my own personal experience of economics and geography, I will link the study to cultural and human aspects of these disciplines so that they become vibrant experiences. To take a truly democratic approach to teaching, it means incorporating all of my previous points so that students are able to make education and knowledge their own, critically examining social conditions and to consider acting based on the knowledge they have gained. By taking a problem-posing approach that places students at the forefront of learning, I will bring out the students' critical habit of mind. creating a classroom environment where problems are seen as solvable and social, not permanent individual failures. Unfortunately, many students' school experience is not linked to their lives, so they grow apathetic, unable, or unwilling to change their world for the better. It is my duty to give my students hope for the future and the desire to make their world and the lives of others better by becoming active and informed citizens. Importantly, this means, as I teach, I am modelling what it means to be part of a democratic community, utilising teaching and strategies and practices that aid students in critiquing their world with a view to take action and change society for the better. My students will be able to demonstrate their active citizenship through how they behave and act in the school environment, displaying the principles and values that are associated with social justice, sustainability, and democratic processes. My teaching has succeeded when my students' ability to learn, act on learning, and they continue to desire to learn. Thank you for listening to my presentation. This unit has been really enlightening, and I'm looking forward to getting out there and teaching a bit more HASS. So thank you, and this is a good read.